tell me how you feel.
Go for 2.
Oh, 2 sips
Oh, he's
of
going
the
for
bud.
2 sips. He's going to feel extra fabulous in a second.
I saw a funny TikTok. Dude, I saw a funny
It was the
TikTok.
dude at the bar. Was it the guy?
No.
What? No, there was a guy at the bar. He was drinking a beer out of like a Bud Light glass.
Okay.
And he's sitting there and he's drinking. And he's like, something's weird about this. And he says to the bartender, he goes to the bartender, he goes, I'm sorry, I think something's wrong with this glass. Can you give it to me in a different cup? And she pours the beer in a different cup, and then he drinks it, and he goes, oh, goddamn, that's all better. I don't know what happened.
That's
funny as
That's
hell.
funny.
That's
I saw a
That's
TikTok.
making light of a situation.
yeah.
It's
I would
like
have
just
loved
weird.
to see the bartender's
Where the
face.
bartender was pissing herself laughing so hard because
I
he's
bet.
like, I don't know what's wrong with this beer.
Oh, dude.
I'm getting hot flashes all of a sudden. I don't know where I want to go and eat.
Bro,
That's funny. I did see a TikTok where oh nice, just cough right into the mic.
Cough right in.
I did see a TikTok where a guy was doing like a beer blind taste test, and he had like
Oh.
the 4 beers, and it was like a Coors, it was like a Miller's, a Bud Light, and then
Yeah.
whatever Heineken or whatever.
Mhm.
And he's taking sips. He's like, okay, that one tastes like Coors. All right. oh, that one tastes like Miller's. And then he gets to the Bud Light. He goes, ooh, well that one's a tad weird. I don't know if I really like. Let me take another sip. And then he's like, and then he sips the last one. He's like, oh yeah, Heineken 90. That's what it is. It's just you're making light of a very odd situation. Yes.
So
Why are we watching this?
Well, the Phillies are on. What do you mean?
yeah,
It's Jeff's house.
it's my house.
Yeah.
True. You know what?
When we
Fair.
start recording at your house, you can
we
have
can watch
that
the Mets,
song.
right?
Also, just a weird moment. I was not expecting to pop open this game and see Suarez.
Yeah, tonight's his first start back.
Yeah, first
Rangers
start back.
Suarez.
He's been
Yeah.
decent for the Phils, though.
Can I ask why they're wearing the army green hats and socks? Is there a thing going on at Citizens Bank tonight? Because Memorial Day
I was
is
gonna say
next
that's
weekend.
Next weekend.
No, but I might. See, this is weird because I know that they've done when they're on the road.
I'll look it up.
When they're on the road games during
Mhm.
that time frame, they usually try to do something else. So I don't know. I'd have to look at their schedule and see if maybe they're on the road or not.
I'm trying to see the side of his hat. It looks like there's like an army patch on it.
Yeah, no.
It's not
it
the
is-
Army's
it is
birthday.
Armed Forces Weekend.
Yeah, it's Armed
Oh.
Forces Weekend, but
Yep. So
This
it's,
weekend?
It's like the salute
Yeah.
to service thing that the NFL does, but it's
Yeah, but why this weekend?
I don't know why this weekend. But
That-
they might have other stuff going on next week. I don't know.
well, yeah, I'm sure
That's
they're going to
odd.
do something for Memorial
Yeah.
Day next weekend.
Unless
Memorial Day
maybe
weekend baseball. I mean, that's
Yeah,
unless
it's
maybe
kinda
they're going to
hand in
bring
hand.
out their own, because I know like with the 4th of July and Mother's Day, and every year they bring out like a new version
Yep.
of the hats or whatever. So maybe they've got something planned, or I don't know.
Maybe?
But that's just odd that this would be Armed Forces Weekend. I just thought it would be next weekend, which
weekend?
would make
Yeah.
sense. Side note: I was listening to something from John Boy this
Yep.
morning. It was a YouTube short of his, which I did not know they were doing this in baseball this year.
Mhm.
But apparently, and I really just want to get your guys' opinion on it, what you think. Apparently, at the All-Star game this year, there's thoughts, rumors, or maybe it's already solidified that if the game goes into extra innings tied, they're going to scratch extra innings completely, and they're going to
Okay.
pick 3 players
Home run
from
derby,
each
right?
team and do a home run derby
I
style
heard
to
ab-
pick the
I
winner.
heard about this. That would be dope. I think that would be cool.
Right?
'Cause
So
I mean, extra innings is extra innings. Everybody sees it, but that's the thing is extra innings. They're going to put a guy on second, just like they do in the regular
Yeah.
season.
right.
They're gonna. It's gonna be normal baseball. You want to see action at the All-Star game, so I think doing that with a little home run.
It'd be pretty
derby-
cool, right?
I mean, just imagine you're sitting there, tie game, finish the ninth, goes in tied in end of the ninth. You're like, well, shit, time to go to extras. Hop. Just kidding. Let's pull up Pete Alonso for the NL to just dick slap some dingers
So-
real quick. Let's pull up Aaron Judge to go against him for the AL, and then let's just keep going down the line. Max Muncy next for the
Yeah,
the
so you
NL.
get-
like,
So you get
you get like the top
three
three
players,
home
right?
run
So,
leaders or something like that.
so
on
3
each
players.
side.
So you get Alonso and Muncy. Who would be your third?
Well, I mean,
Nolan Arenado.
well, he's been on a tear, in the
Dude,
last little
Probably.
bit. He's starting to
no,
heat
it's
up.
got to be Acuna, right?
Well, I mean, I would imagine it just goes like your top 3 home run hitters in the league, because that's how they determine the home run derby.
Okay.
Is it's your home run
Yeah.
leaders through a certain point of the season.
Okay.
That's who gets in the home run derby.
So
I would
currently it
imagine-
would be
Alonzo
Alonzo
Maxey,
Muncy, and
Maxey. I'm talking.
I think it's Acuna Jr., isn't it?
It might be. I'm not 100% sure.
And then on the other side,
all I
Aaron
know
Judge is obviously your leader.
It's Alonzo Muncy right now for home runs.
So, since we're talking about All-Star real quick.
Anyway, what were your thoughts on that, Jeff?
Well, I think that's a great great thing to have for them to do.
Right? I think could be kind of fun.
Yeah, it should be fun.
It's Adolis. Oh, no. Hold on.
But
Adolis Garcia.
Yeah, that's Texas Rangers.
Yeah,
He's third place overall. It goes Alonzo, Max Muncy, Adolis Garcia at
Aaron
13,
Judge?
Aaron Judge at 13. Yeah. Is that Nolan Gorman?
It could be.
Is that Nolan Gorman?
I don't know. You're reading the list.
Nolan Gorman is third place in the National League with 12 homers.
Really?
For the St. Louis Cardinals. And then Luis Robert in third place for the AL.
So
okay, that's not a bad list. I forgot about
Acuna's
Garcia.
just outside of top 3.
Yeah,
for
we'll
now.
see.
Okay.
Him jump.
Anyway, I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
So I wanted to pose this further question to you.
Okay.
Because we've talked about the NFL before.
Oh, dude, OTA or rookie minicamp started again. I'm sorry, I totally just cut you off.
No. So, but here's the question, right? And this is a question I think we've
Nick's
had this.
cracking up. I'm sorry, and I do it again.
No.
I'm sorry.
So we had talked about this previously, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
About how in the NFL when it comes to All-Star Weekend, that for the NFL, like those players really don't do much when it was
At
like
all.
full touch, and then now that they've changed it over to flag football, right? It's been still kind of not as exciting as it could be.
No, it's awful.
Right. And I question, I'm like, why is it that baseball All-Star Weekend is super fun to watch, even when they play each other in like a regular game?
Right.
And then the NFL is just like, is it because of the positioning of when it happens during the season? Like, what is your thought on that?
I think the NFL, the NHL, and basketball their biggest problem when it comes to All-Star Weekend is the fact that you cannot really play a full game, right? Like, especially the NFL. The problem with the Pro Bowl is you can't play a fully padded, full-out game. Baseball is the one weird sport.
Because they're still prone to injury, right? That's the majority of the time. The comment has always been made about concern for injury, right? And so the baseball, with the MLB for the All-Star game, all of those players are prone to injury. The one being the most prone to injury being the pitchers who play that game.
That's fair.
Right.
So I think it's easier,
what is the
though.
MLB's doing right that is allowing for them to be successful compared to the rest?
I think it's just easier to play a baseball game and make it look 100%. Like, you could play a baseball game at 75% and still make it look like good baseball, where you can't really play a football game at 75%, right? Same thing with basketball. Like, you can't really play a basketball game at 75% with every, like, you are going to change the game a little bit because you're not going to play as hard defense and you're not really going to try as hard. Hockey, same way. Where baseball, I think, is lucky enough to have the ability to play the game and still not have a ton of risk of injury and still be able to play, what have you. But I will say this. I think baseball's biggest problem is they make All-Star Weekend during the week. I think the MLB owners need to kind of get over themselves and figure out how to have All-Star Weekend on the weekend. I understand the owners are going to lose money because Friday, Saturday, Sunday are their big days, and everybody comes out and all that jazz. But for the young fan, when you're 7, 8, 9, and maybe even a little older, like just getting into high school, 13, 14, it's like you have the All-Star game on a Tuesday or Wednesday. You have the Home Run Derby the night before at 8, 9 o'clock. So you have all these young kids who you want them to be watching, but it's a school night. They're going to bed. Like, they're not all staying up for it. Now, granted, with the pitch clock, it'll make it a little easier because the game will go a little faster, what have you, but I think that's my biggest concern. But to your point, I think baseball is the easiest to play and make it look realistic, and because you can't half-ass hitting a baseball. You actually have to hit the baseball.
Right, of course.
You know what I mean? Like, you can kind of half-ass a throw, kind of half-ass a tackle. So I think that's why baseball is lucky enough to have an awesome All-Star game. And the home run derby is a show. I love the home
yeah,
run derby.
yeah.
The
But
home
that's
run-
the same thing with like as far as when you look at the NFL weekend though, the kicking contest is usually pretty entertaining.
that can
Or
be
the
yeah,
throw
that's kind of fun.
contest is really entertaining, right? So there's all these other avenues that the NFL tries to emphasize to show off skill, and it's usually pretty entertaining. But when it comes to that actual game, when it gets down to it, it's lost all
Yes,
effect.
yes. It's completely lost. And I think the biggest problem with the NFL in terms of like skills competition,
Yeah.
there's not really a ton of flashy skills, right? Like catches are cool, but you can't
Right.
really make a flashy catch. Like flashy catches are made in moment, like in the
Right.
moment. Where like the home run derby, home runs are flashy. So
Right.
you can pimp out a home run and hit 10 of them and hit them as far as you can. Like that skill is flashy in its own right. Like the NHL has a flashy skills competition because a lot of those skills are kind of flashy on their own.
Right.
Right? The speed contest and the movement, all
breakaway, the
the-
breakaway challenge.
right. Like those are kind of flashy on their own. Where in the NFL specifically, like their skills competition, a lot of that stuff isn't flashy without something else in it, like
Happening.
in game,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like if somebody throws like Aaron Rodgers Hail Marys, right? You watch this guy throw 65-yard Hail Marys, but it's flashy because he's getting chased down or he's coming out of the pocket and there's intensity.
Right.
Just throwing a 65-yard ball into a bucket.
It's nice, but
It's
it's
cool,
not,
right?
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean it's cool, and I don't take anything away from the skill, but the flashiness is kind of taken away. The edge is kind of taken away because there's no real,
Right.
you can't really pimp that like you can pimp a home run. Like,
Right.
and I think the home run derby's top notch.
Oh.
I think the sudden death they added, what was that, 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
Right.
was awesome. I think everything about the home run derby is an absolute gem, and I can't wait for this year's. Obviously,
should be
Although
good.
Pete Alonso should have not been an idiot last year. He should have won it again last year.
Yes, he
but
should have.
He decided to, in between turns, go to the locker room and squat 400 pounds or deadlift 400 pounds in between his turns.
yeah, because he's an idiot.
Because he's a machine. But I think that tired him out.
Well, I mean, you know what I think?
Dude, I didn't even recognize Stroman for a second.
Stroman.
Yeah, it's Stroman pitching for
Is
the
that
Cubs.
Stroman
Yeah,
up there?
he
crap.
I'm so used to seeing him like with his hair like
Yeah.
up, like he's got just like the braids hanging down right now.
I will say something about the home run derby, though. I do wish this year specifically they throw in a couple of flashy studs just because, like, I don't believe Ohtani's really up there on the list for home runs, but I just want to see him in the home run derby anyway. Whether he hits 100 or hits
Right.
7 this year, I want to see
He's got
Ohtani.
10.
He's got 10. Okay.
10. He'll probably
tied for-
win.
I mean, he'll probably qualify anyway,
Yeah.
but like Mike Trout is what? How many does he have? He's got 11, right? He's 10 or 11. I know him and Ohtani
10.
hit 10 together the other night.
Yep.
Like he would be fun to be in the home run derby. Like I kind of want the home run derby to be a little flashy. Like add some big studs in there, add
Right.
some big guys, big names that you may not see every year.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. I think that's like one of the big ticket things to watch. Even if you're not like somebody who sits here and watches, over 100 games of baseball a season, right? Like if you're not sitting there watching that, that is still one of those events that you're wanting to go and witness and watch.
Oh, dude,
It's always been something.
I
So.
do you know? Either one of you know the next time the All-Star Game's supposed to be in Philadelphia? I know it's coming. I just don't know if it's 2024
look.
or 2025.
Keep talking. I'll look it up.
Okay.
Yep.
Either way, I want to go. I know the tickets are a tad expensive. I wanted to go when they had it in Citi Field a few years back, and I
Yeah.
didn't get to go, which was a severe disappointment. I know this year it's in Seattle, which is a disappointment because Rodriguez is not playing
Right.
to
Yeah, J-Rod's off to a very
he's
slow
not
start
playing
this
to
year.
his
Compared to-
caliber.
compared to what he was last year.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, like he's still good.
yeah,
Don't
you
get
got
me-
to
it's not
compare
like-
him to himself. Like you compare, and I'm not 2025.
23 is T-Mobile in Seattle. 24 is Globe Life Field in Texas.
Okay.
25 is still to be determined. 2026 is Citizens
26.
Bank Park.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a little bit away, but
we still got 3 years for that.
but nonetheless, I'm a little disappointed that J-Rod's not playing exactly to his standards.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't compare him to like the average
Right.
because last year was so good, but he's the guy. He's got to start getting it together, especially because that's their guy,
Bryce Harper.
and he's got to be in the All-Star game. Like you can't have an All-Star game in Seattle without J-Rod playing. I mean that
Right.
would be
It's going to be disappointing to see.
Bryce Harper.
So we got our third in lineups for
The
tonight's
scoreboard
game.
says Cub soup.
Yeah.
Cub soup.
Cub soup.
I don't know.
What is Cub
we
soup?
got we
You don't
got
see it?
we got Bryce Harper up.
Look at the
bat.
scoreboard. It says CUBS for Cubs, but then it says OOP, like 00P. So it looks like it says Cub soup.
Okay.
Oh,
Like the
stupid.
Pirates were playing
Oh
the
my
Phillies a
God.
couple weeks
Yeah, it
ago,
said
and
poop.
it said poop.
yeah.
Okay.
Cub soup. Good soup.
That was an awful joke, by the way.
That's all right.
But yeah.
Dude, I
People-
love the All-Star
People tell
Should
me I
be
should be a stand-up comedian.
So-
And I thank them.
Nobody tells you that.
I thank them, but in all actuality, I just prefer to sit instead.
I hate you.
Uh-huh.
I hate you. That was such a. That was so bad.
I hope the listeners facepalm.
That
on
was
one.
so bad. Like
That was good. Come on.
So little touch for a couple weeks ago.
ahead, talk about whatever you
I
want,
wanted to
Chad.
talk about and bring back up because I've been kind of keeping an ear out for this ongoing situation we've been hearing about with the A's and their move to Vegas. And there's a couple things that I wanted to note about. One of those things that was really disappointing to see.
Oh, Bryce Harper gets a double down the line.
There we go.
Dude, that man rakes. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
no,
Jeff.
keep
I just
going.
cut Jeff off constantly. That man rakes. He
Is
comes.
that Mike Napoli?
I think so. Where? Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that is.
Let's get back to this guy raking for a second. This guy. Oh, he's in.
He's in.
He
Yeah,
he
he's in.
Yeah.
comes back from a Tommy John, and comes back early and is hitting what 315 off the
Close to
first
it, I
like
think.
2-3 weeks he's been here. He's been in. Dude, absolutely wild. Bryce Harper's an absolute animal.
Dude's just
Built different.
different level of athleticism.
By the way, speaking of what we were talking about before the microphones came on and we
Yeah.
started recording about how, like, not mic'd up moments, but like when Twitter or Facebook catches players like saying stuff. Last night, obviously, Pete Alonso, hilarious. If you didn't see it, go check our Twitter
Yeah.
because I know Nick retweeted it, of Pete Alonso hitting a walk-off 3-run homer, coming around the bases, screaming at his guys. What does he say, Nick?
He says, "Let's fucking go, motherfuckers!"
Dude.
As he's coming across home plate.
Dude, absolutely hilarious. But I don't know if you saw last week or the week before when the Phillies were in Colorado.
Yeah.
I don't know what was being said behind home plate to Bryce Harper, but Bryce Harper came around after hitting an absolute moonshot. He comes around and is looking at whoever it was, chatting him up behind home plate, going, "What happened? What happened?" And then the camera catches him in the dugout looking over there and goes, "What happened, fucking losers?" Dude, what an
I love
absolute
Bryce,
dude!
man.
What a guy! And listen, I'm all for shit talk. Listen, if you can't handle the heat, stay out of the kitchen. I don't mind
Like,
people
if you-
behind
if you
home
can't
plate
dish
giving.
it.
Yeah, I don't mind people giving it to players as long as it's within somewhat of a respect. Like
Yeah,
if
like
you
it's one thing to be like, "Oh, you're a bum," like stuff like that. But if you're like making comments, like personal comments, trying to dig at this dude,
Yes.
like that's a little bit different. But like when I went to the Mets Nationals game a couple weeks ago, we were sitting in left field, right like second row, right behind the left fielder. So I think the Nationals left fielder is Alec Call.
yes,
And the whole night, like he made a bad throw to home that let a run score in, and we right behind him, we were all like, "You got a bum arm, Alec. You can't throw. Stop throwing." And then like we were just doing that. But then the one dude like brings up Alec Call's high school baseball coach, and was like, mentions him by name. Is like, hey, Coach so-and-so's not gonna like that throw. And he's like, I'm like, dude, you're bringing up his high school coach talk? This dude's been a major leaguer for a couple of years now.
Right.
Like, there's some people that take it way too seriously.
Yes, and if you can't take it back, like when the players then give you the razzle,
Right.
Like,
Like he then hit a home run like
Yes,
2
yes.
innings later and came back and like looked at all of us and was like, what's up?
yeah,
We all cheered. We loved it. We were like, yeah. Like, he was a
Yes.
good sport about it.
yes, and I think sometimes fans take it a tad too far because you got to remember these guys are public figures. All of their information is out there. Like sometimes they take it a tad too far. However, speaking about giving people,
I still love the clip of Garrett Cole in the bullpen. The guy's like, "That looks like it's a little bit too high, Garrett." It's like that
No,
was
I don't
from
remember that.
I think that was in the playoffs a couple years ago. It might have been Houston. It might have been in Houston. But there was a game where the Yankees were warming up in the bullpen.
Oh, I remember
And
this.
the guys-
and Garrett
and the
Cole's getting
guys-
razzed,
Yep.
and then he gets knocked out in like the first inning that
Yep,
game.
That game, yep.
Dude, I will say though, I remember you were with us the night we went to the Phillies game.
Mhm.
It was you, me, Jeff, and like we had like 10 of us.
Oh,
remember
yeah,
we
there
were
was, like, a
giving
big group.
Juan Soto the business for a
Oh,
while. We're
yeah.
like, I remember we were going out. I'm like, I bet you wear your socks to bed, you weirdo.
Yep.
Like it was
And
always,
then he was a good sport about
Dude.
it too. Like he would give us like a little wave off to the
Yeah,
side because he's the same way as like Pete Alonso. Like he's so locked into the game when he's in it. So like he doesn't really let himself get distracted.
yeah.
So
He smirked a couple times.
Yeah.
We had a couple good ones. I think our buddy Cody gave him the you wear tidy whities.
Yep.
Somebody gave him the
Even-
your mom can't cook.
Even when I was at the Mets game just a couple weeks ago, because Mark Canna was playing left field for us that game, and we're standing back there, and I don't know if anybody's ever noticed, but Mark Canna, all the girls love Mark Canna.
Dude, everybody.
Because one, he's just a super, super nice guy. Like he's so friendly to everybody. He's just so chill. Will sign autographs. Like he's great human. But Mark Canna, the girls love him in his baseball pants because he's got a butt.
Right. It's the same thing with Bryce Harper and
Yeah.
Reese Hoskins was the same way.
Yeah.
Everybody loved him for
when they wore
for his butt.
For
I'm
his
like, dude,
butt.
what?
So like there was at one point that a guy stood up behind us and he starts yelling at Mark Canny. He goes, "Hey Mark, you got a CDL for that dump truck you got back there?" Bro, that was the funniest thing. Our whole section starts cracking up, and Mark Canna just kind of turns around and looks at us like, bro,
Dude,
it
that's
was
funny.
so funny.
You know what also helps though when your team's winning? I remember when we gave the business to Juan Soto, they were up. I think the Phillies lost that game 18-1, and we stayed for the whole
Yeah,
thing.
we stayed
were
all
the
night.
only ones in the stadium yelling at Soto. Like you knew he heard everything we were saying because we're the only
We're the
8
only
idiots
ones, yeah.
still in the
'Cause it
the
was-
stands.
God, who was it? It was me.
That was the
you.
year the Nats. That was the year the Nats won the World Series.
Yep,
That
it
Yeah,
was.
and we
It was
were
2019.
2 rows from the actual railing.
yeah, and then we got
Or
the
like
guy
3.
kicked out.
Yeah,
Remember he was
There a
flashing
fan.
hundreds. We got
There
the
was
fan
a
kicked
fan
out.
who was so bad
Yeah,
that night.
it was a Nationals fan.
Yes, but no. So, that was 2019. It was us 3, our buddy Cody, a couple of girls, right? Because
Harsh was there.
Harsh was there.
Haley was there.
yes, your girlfriend at the time, Jeff's girlfriend at the time,
Lindsay was there.
Lindsay was there.
Yeah.
Jeff's and mine's friend, Jeff's girlfriend, ex-girlfriend's friend, and
I still have the
Luca,
memories.
our buddy Luca was there with
Was
his
Luca
girlfriend
there?
at the time. He was in a different section, but he ended up
Oh,
coming
okay,
over to
that's
us.
right. That's right. That's right.
There were so many of us at that game. Wow.
Yeah, our original group going was only like 8 people, but then Luca and his girlfriend showed up. and
Yeah,
there
we
was
ended
like
up with
10.
10, and we were the only idiots left in that stadium.
Oh yeah, for
Oh,
real. It was nearly empty by the like 9th inning or 8th.
eighth inning, it was empty by the 5th.
Well,
when
yeah,
they were down
because
like
they were-
12.
Yeah, they were losing so bad, but like we no, by like 5th, 6th inning, we were one of like 2 or 3 groups left in our section. By 7th, it was cleared out.
Yeah,
I do have a question.
I'm actually gonna look back and see. What
I
the
still have
score
the
of that game
the
was.
photo was. I saw the photo for.
There
all
was
the
a lot of
guys.
us, yeah. Question for you though, you guys. So I know every team kind of has their thing, and I don't know how new this one is, but
Yeah.
I just saw this the other day, and we haven't talked about it. I just want to know what your guys' take is, right? So the Mets obviously have the 7 line, right?
Right.
The Yankees have the bleacher creatures,
Right.
right? But did you guys see the Baltimore Orioles and their new thing?
No.
So apparently, I don't exactly know the full story of
And
how
then
it started.
Once you finish this,
Go ahead. No, go ahead. What do you
I was
got?
going to say, speaking of Baltimore Orioles, did you see the thing with everybody's favorite 43-year-old virgin, Zach Hampel?
No.
Did you? There's
No.
this kid.
So
there's
it's
this
so
kid
it was all over Twitter
Oh yeah,
when this happened.
all over. So
All
it was
over.
at Camden Yards. There's this kid who streams, I believe, on Twitch. It might be YouTube, but his name on there is like Little Man.
Okay.
And he is this kid who plays MLB The Show is like all he plays.
Right.
He is confined to a wheelchair. He plays video games, loves it. He's a huge baseball fan. And when Cedric Mullins was first like coming up and starting to get traction, getting popular, he was playing MLB The Show. And this kid, anytime he would play a game, Cedric Mullins would be on the opposite team, and Cedric Mullins would absolutely destroy him. Like home run
Okay.
every time he would pitch the ball.
What's the guy's name?
His actual name is AJ. But his name on Twitch is like Little Man something.
Oh, is he the one? Is he the one with the voice is kind of high and he's always
and
screaming about
he's got,
something?
like, the Hispanic kid. He's got the beard and he's got like the spiky black hair.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay,
So
I know this.
The Orioles invited him out because his whole thing that year was like, I can't escape Cedric Mullins.
Right.
So they ended up getting wind of it, and now they just had him out so he could meet Cedric Mullins during BP, got to get on the field, blah, 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 blah. Well, the only thing that AJ had said was like, oh, the only thing that could make this day better is if Cedric Mullins hits a home run tonight.
No way he hits a dinger.
Cedric Mullins hits a home run and
No.
fucking
But
Zach Hampel catches it.
He's standing. He's out in
He's
standing
standing in
room.
left
out
field,
there.
and this kid is recording Zach. He's like, oh, Zach, you caught the home run. Are you going to give it to AJ? And he's like, who's AJ? And he's like,
'Cause
oh,
he has
the
no clue.
the
It's just
Cedric.
over his head.
Yeah, and he's like, the Cedric
Oh,
Mullins kid. And
Suarez,
he goes,
what are
He's
you
like,
doing?
he
I'm
goes,
the
he goes,
Mullins
I
kid.
don't know. He's like, I don't know who AJ is. He was like, I'm the Mullins guy tonight.
Yeah.
I wanted to punch this dude in the face.
Oh my
I-
god.
They were going
And
after
one
him
of my
hard.
favorite,
Oh
one of
my
my favorite
God.
clips too. You know the guy who goes to the Phillies games, the Philly captain, the
Yes,
really.
yes.
So, my favorite thing is when he posts clips on his TikTok and he'll be like, "Watch out, guys! Zach Campbell's here. Watch your kids. Watch your kids. He'll knock them over to get a ball. Watch out for Zach Campbell." He's so funny, bro. And he posted to go off of that, the same guy,
Yeah.
the Philly sports captain guy.
Right.
He posted a clip when the Eagles. Who did they beat to go to the Super Bowl? Come on.
The 49ers.
Okay, they beat the 49ers. So, obviously, the game was at the Link in Philly.
Jeff and I, first I know for all of the listeners, Jeff and I looked at each other like we had no
No
idea.
fucking
We
clue.
were like, wait a minute, what? Like, I was still in baseball mindset. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you
Who- yeah.
talking about?
But anyway,
Anyway, good.
the Philly captain guy, he was at the Eagles game
Okay.
when they won and beat the 49ers. Were
Right,
going
right,
to
right.
Arizona to go to the Super Bowl. So he has a video on his TikTok. Anytime I'm in a bad mood, I'll just pull it up just because it's so funny. And in his Delco accent, because that's how he talked.
For those
Delaware County,
thank you.
Pennsylvania.
Yes, for those statewide
Yes, for
listeners,
those nationwide listeners.
Delco means Delaware County, Pennsylvania, and most people outside of Delco do not like Delco.
Yes.
Delco is their own little group
it's
of
almost
people
like
that,
Delco
nobody
is
likes.
like their own little Texas.
Yeah.
Like,
If
don't
you're
mess
not-
with Delco. Like,
and
but
if, you,
this
and if you're
dude
not from
in-
it, you don't like it.
in his Philly accent. So he's walking out of the stadium at the end of the night, and he's going through the parking lot, and he's like, "Oh, Arizona, Super Bowl 53,
Yeah.
here we come!" And then as he's walking by, I found the clip. Ready?
Play
Okay,
the audio.
He walks by a 49ers fan.
I guess you put it in the
Arizona, baby, here we come. Not you. You stay here, dickhead.
And this is as he's walking by a group of 49ers fans. He's like, "Not you. You stay here, dickhead," and gives him like the hand wave, like whooshes him out of the way. One of the funniest, and I think the accent is what
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
it
it
funny,
is,
'cause
it
he's like,
is.
"Not you. You stay here, dickhead."
Yeah.
It's just so funny every time.
Wait, so what does this have to do with?
Well, it was because we mentioned.
Oh, dude, Rangers getting lit up here in the second
we
inning.
mentioned, or you mean the Cubs?
No, Ranger.
Oh, is it-
Rangers getting lit up. Ranger
Oh,
Suarez.
Ranger Suarez. I
Suarez.
thought you said the Rangers are getting lit
No,
up. I
no,
was thinking,
Ranger
I'm not
is
watching the
getting
Texas
lit up
Rangers.
here in the second
No,
inning.
but we mentioned the little man, or AJ, at the
Yes,
yes,
Orioles
okay.
game, and then we mentioned that guy absolutely hates Zach Campbell.
I understand.
because
okay.
he does.
Dude, that's hilarious. No, so back to what I was getting to with the Orioles originally. So apparently, I don't know how it all started on Twitter, but apparently some Twitter-verse thing came into real life like it always does. And now there's a section in Camden Yards that's called the Bird Bath. And anytime somebody hits an extra base hit,
Oh yeah, they spit
start
water.
spraying water into the crowd, and
Oh
all
my
the
God.
crowd in that section just eat it up, dude. They
I
call
saw
it
a
the
video
Bird Bath.
of the players the other day doing something, and all the players, when that happened, like they all filled their mouths with water,
And
stood on
yes.
the edge of the dugout, and started like
Yes.
fountain them
So
out of
the
their mouth.
so the fans in one of the sections, there's a guy who's got like water spray bottles, and anytime there's a double, triple,
douses
home
the
run,
section.
he just starts squirting the section, and the section just eats it up. They're just like loving it,
Oh
and they
my
call it the
God.
Bird Bath.
It's like the splash zone at SeaWorld.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, first off,
Hello,
phenomenal
Shabu.
idea. I don't know why anybody didn't think of this years ago, but I just
Don't
dude,
chop at it. It's not a sword.
dude, I love that. I love when teams. Let me rephrase. I love when fans of a team create something like that.
Right.
Like, dude, I think that's
Right.
hilarious. Like, obviously, like I said, the Mets have the 7 line. The Yankees have the bleacher
He
creatures.
shouts to Seneca High School in Tabernacle, New Jersey, with the bird's nest.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
their fan section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the
My alma mater.
I know the Braves have the chop, right? Like when your fan base kind of rallies and like creates something like that,
Mhm.
dude, I think that's so cool and so innovative. And I think the Bird Path is hilarious, where you have just a section where it's like, dude, all right, you're in this section, you know that you're gonna get
You're getting
doused
wet
with
today.
water. Yeah. Actually, you know what? Side note. So we were talking about this before we started recording. So I went to a Union game last night, a Philadelphia Union game. I know we're not like soccer guys.
I meant to ask you how that went.
Dude, I love soccer.
Oh, bro,
That's
live.
like-
That's the thing. Is like I refuse unless it's the World Cup. I don't watch
Dude,
soccer on
I
TV.
love
Speaking
soccer.
of the World Cup,
I'm getting into soccer so much right now.
KC,
Oh,
KC
yeah.
got their bid. They made it.
Yep.
It's coming to them. 2026 World
Yeah,
Cup.
Kansas City's getting the World Cup in 26. They made their bid and they got it.
Whoa.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
And-
know there was a couple cities. Wait,
Speaking-
Kansas City's getting the whole thing. They're not going to share it with the states, right? It's
No.
a US thing, right?
KC.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but
I
not,
like that.
Not only that, I know Pat Mahomes is lobbying for.
Tickets.
No, he's lobbying for the Arizona Coyotes to move to Kansas City.
I love that idea.
I think Kansas City would be such a good spot for a hockey team.
Dude,
That would be
Dude,
such a good spot.
I love that idea. Wait, so backtrack.
'Cause
We'll
he
we'll
was
get
like,
back, we'll get back to that.
I would love to see hockey in Kansas City. Is what he tweeted when the Coyotes tweeted.
Well,
We're
they're
like,
keeping
oh, well,
him-
where should we
They're
move?
keeping them in Scottsdale for now.
For now, I guess. Okay.
So
Because a lot of people were saying they should move to Glendale.
yeah, so what happened at least to what I've read, seen, heard, is it I want to say it's Scottsdale, Tempe, wherever they are currently. That's fine. We'll get to it. I think wherever they are, Tempe, Scottsdale, what have you. They put in a bid to get the stadium. The township said no, we're good, and
Right.
they're playing at the University of Arizona, the college stadium there, which only holds like 7,000 to 10,000 people.
Yeah, it's not big at all.
So the team is like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? And the NHL said, yeah, we'll figure it out. Just stay there. And everybody's like, what? Like they don't know what to do with them because they don't want to get rid of the Coyotes, but they also don't know
Where to put them?
what-
And I'll
yeah,
tell,
like, where
but
to
I'll
put
tell
'em.
you. I'll tell you,
you
what.
can't put the Coyotes in Kansas City. I mean, you'd have to change the name, the logo, the whole nine.
Well,
I mean, you don't have to change the name and the
you don't have to
logo,
change
but
the-
it doesn't really make sense. It's like the Utah Jazz. Jazz doesn't live in Utah.
Well, yeah, and we had talked about that, and that's the other thing I wanted to long time regroup back to my original thing that I was trying to recap earlier.
God, we're so bad at
I know,
staying
it's
on
fine.
topic. It's our ADD, I
Um,
think.
I was gonna say one thing that to bring it back to that, right, about teams moving, right?
Wait, okay, I know where you're going with this. Before you get to that, because that's going to be a conversation. Like that's going to be a whole conversation piece.
Go ahead.
I want to make my point on soccer real quick.
Yeah, about the Union.
Yes, so I went to first off, I'm getting really into soccer. I think the sport is beautiful. The game is awesome. Love it.
When are you gonna
However-
start watching some Wrexham games?
Dude. So actually, that's what got me really into soccer.
Yeah.
So I
it's
binge
a
watch.
snag.
I binge watch Welcome to Wrexham, which is the Ryan Reynolds, Rob McElhenney.
Yep.
Binge watch it. This year, Wrexham was in the race to get out of the National League. So I ended up, the last 3 or 4 games, I ended up buying the National League pass and
to
watching
be able
all
to
of them.
watch.
Watched them
Great
promote,
games.
was really getting into them. So that got me into soccer. So I'm like, okay, MLS, let me try it. Anyway, went to a couple games. I've been to a couple games, but really starting to get into it. Wrap this back to baseball. All soccer fans have sections, like crazy fan sections.
Oh yeah,
So the Union have what they call the Sons of Ben.
that's
Dude,
cool.
Awesome. They have their own merch. They have their own colors.
Mhm.
They have their own chants.
Yep.
The whole game, they just bang on the drums and they
similar.
chant. And they don't sit at all. And every team has a section. And I'm like, dude, if baseball or football or hockey, basketball can adopt this is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
They get their own section. They get their own entrance to the stadium. The stadium actually, when you're coming into the parking lot, it says Sons of Ben entrance. And it shows you how to get into that side of the parking lot with those. Dude, awesome stuff.
Yep.
Now, Jeff, I'm sorry. To your point about relocating teams.
Well,
go ahead.
actually, before you go in, just to go off of that, I'd never been a soccer guy.
Oh,
I
dude,
played
soccer's
when
awesome.
I was 4 or 5 years old. I hated it just because it just wasn't for me. I was a baseball kid. I was
Fair.
a hockey kid. But in my 3 years that I lived in Orlando,
Dude, Orlando
I'd never
is
gone,
awesome, isn't it?
I'd never gone to any Orlando sporting event other than the Pro Bowl when it was in Disney in 2020.
Okay.
So that was the only thing I'd ever gone to. When I was working at the car dealership in Florida, the blood drive truck came to us, and when you did it, you got 2 free tickets to an Orlando City soccer club game. Now, I hate that they don't call it football club. It's Orlando City Soccer Club. Stupid.
Yeah, stupid.
But we went to that. The game started. The first half, it was good, kind of overcast. During halftime, torrential downpour. Not a single fucking person left that stadium.
Dude,
I mean,
soccer
we all
fans
moved.
are
We all
devout.
moved under. So the way that their stadium works is along the actual the length of the field. It's overhangs, but then in the corners of the stadium, there's no overhang. So it's just on the end and just on the sides there's overhang. Everybody just moshed into underneath the overhang to prevent.
Yeah.
But that fan section, not a single one of those people left. They stayed the whole game. They chanted the
I
whole
bet.
game. They played their drums the whole game. They had the powder flying in the drums with the water. They were putting food coloring in the water on the drums. So when they were hitting it, you'd see the blue and red water and purple water
Dude.
flash. That was one of the coolest things. And they ended up winning that game too. And I'll show you the clip later from when they won that game. They won that game in with a minute left in extra time.
I love that.
And they won on a crazy cross field kick, one timer out of the air, nutty. It was insane.
Dude, soccer
nuts.
soccer is getting to my heart for 2 reasons. Number one, I think the sport itself is hella athletic.
Oh God, yeah, they run for 90 minutes
dude,
straight.
Yeah. The other reason I really enjoy soccer, and American soccer is kind of molded in its own way, but every game is important, like the NFL, right? Especially in the Premier League.
Oh God, don't get me started. My dad and brother are such big Arsenal fans,
Dude,
and they choked away the Premier League.
No, but just that idea of, hey, every game is important. We have no playoffs. It's the team who has the best record at the end of the year. That's who wins the league. That to me is awesome because every game matters.
Yep.
You cannot take a game off.
That's true.
Every game is heartbreaking. Every game is intense. Every game is electrifying.
Mhm.
Dude, I'm getting so into the sport of soccer, and I love it. Now, Jeff, finally, back to teams and relocating.
Yeah. Well, it's fine because we brought up Orlando, which is perfect because
Yes,
that's what I'm going to be
Orlando.
bringing up.
Dude, Orlando soccer shows that Orlando has a great city for sports.
Oh,
Correct.
yeah, absolutely. And I feel now soccer for Orlando, I feel like they have kind of a bit of an upper hand just because of the large Hispanic and Latino
Fair.
community that is
Fair.
in Florida, Orlando area. But at the same time, I mean, as bad as the Magic are, people love the Magic in Orlando.
Yes.
That
I
is
mean
true.
that's just what that is. But anyway, Jeffrey.
Wow. Yeah, so speaking of recapping for moving teams and bringing up Orlando, we had some news come out. You know, everybody's been listening to the A's be, moving to Vegas. And there was some sad stuff to see that happened as a response from the fan base for that move coming up. We saw the A's had a turnout of a record low of just shy under 2,200 people attend one of their games at home.
That's
You've seen a
wild.
large amount of the historical attendees who've come out and will be there every single game, rain, shine, no matter what. Were not present, and it could definitely be felt in the stadium. The players had noticed it; they could definitely feel it. So it's one of those sad side effects of moves.
Teams relocated.
Yeah, moves being announced and teams being relocated to other places and other markets.
Oh, holy moly! Is that?
That's
oh,
out.
that's hooking.
That's foul.
That's hooked.
Um,
Wow, they're still in this inning, dude.
I know.
Ranger is. I can't believe they're
he's
leaving him in
he's
right
gonna
now.
he's gonna get out. He's gonna get out of it. But the other team that's moving, or the rumor is right,
Speculation.
is Tampa wants out of where they're at. They're in St. Pete.
It's because St. Pete is a shithole.
Well, you would know better than anybody. St. Pete is not Tampa, right? And
No,
everybody.
It's just
St. Pete-
outside it.
St. Pete is literally, I think it's 20 minutes from Tampa. It's
right
right. It's like
outside.
across Tampa Bay.
but it's
Yeah.
a pain in the ass to get to, isn't it? Like for a
Well,
sporting event.
It's-
I haven't been there,
Okay,
so I can't.
it's-
I know when I went down to Tampa, like last 4th of July, I went to Anna Maria Island, which is like right off of Tampa
Right
Bay.
there.
Like when we were out in Tampa Bay fishing and like swimming in the bay, I could see the trop from where
Right.
we were at. So like it's across the bay from Tampa. So it's like it's not crazy far now in terms of getting there. I'm sure it's not going to be the
It's
best
not easy.
just because I'm sure you got to go over a big ass bridge to get over there if you're coming from Tampa. But
Yeah, because I've heard it's very much
I just
like
don't think Orlando's got the room for an MLB.
Well,
team.
no,
so-
but I feel like Tampa Bay is very much like the Washington Commanders FedEx Field, right? Like there's one
Right.
way in, one way out.
Right.
Nobody has any public transportation to
Right.
it. Like it just there's a ton of problems. But anyway,
Yeah.
to your point,
So
Tampa is now
Tampa's now looking at taking options. They were initially looking at it, not even moving out to Orlando or anything like that. They were just looking at moving out of St. Pete. There was a couple other opportunities for different spaces within actual Tampa.
right moving them across the bridge.
Right, moving them across the bay into a different position. But Orlando has been really trying to push to say, hey, we are here. We want you. Well, we not necessarily we want you as far as Tampa. They really kept it open. They just said that they pretty much want anybody for as far as baseball. They want to bring in a baseball team in. The group originally is calling themselves the Orlando Dreamers,
Which is an awful name, by the way.
yeah, I don't think that'll stick. But I definitely think I was looking at some of the numbers in comparison to the similar numbers that they were looking at for Vegas and why the A's were moving to Vegas, right? One of the big ticket pieces is tourism, right? People going there to, enjoy entertainment and other things tourists do. And I was looking at the numbers, and it was absolutely mind-boggling. The difference in numbers of people who go to Vegas for tourism a year versus Orlando. Absolute night and day difference. And I thought it was going to be a lot closer. I genuinely did.
Why?
But-
What? You would think that they're comparable, right? You would think Vegas actually would get more, no?
No.
Well, I
It's-
guess
it's-
Disney World is there, right?
It's like, I think it was, as far as, this is based off of memory, so we'll take it a little bit, but I can definitely make sure we link where the numbers were from.
Yeah, we could tweet that.
But it was like short of like 35, 40 million tourists
Holy
a year
moly.
for Vegas.
For Vegas, they only get 30 million to 40 million a
Yeah.
year. Wow,
So,
that's a shocking
and then
number.
when you look at Orlando,
Mhm.
70. But we got to
Wow.
remember, it's a lot easier, more affordable, and more likely to see a family of 4 go to Orlando than going to Vegas. So when
Okay,
you look
no,
at
that's a
those
good
numbers
point.
turn out
That's a really good point.
and transition that numbers into sales and all these other pieces, right? It makes business money sense to try to see if we can create something in Orlando. And there's been mock-ups. The Dreamers had their artists do
Right,
renders and
right.
stuff. And it looks pretty spectacular if they're able to find that square footage for them to be able to do it. And I had said to the guys in the group chat earlier this past week when I had originally read about the story, and I was making jokes about Mickey Mouse, but I really think that there's an honest chance that either Disney or Universal or any of the other theme parks in Orlando would, if Tampa made a shot to come to Orlando to play in Orlando, that you would see ticket packages get created for families to be able to go and watch a game and see that whole process happen. And it's a great market. They like Nick had said, there's obviously really, really awesome fans out there in that market who would love to take them in. I think they will do absolutely awesome in that market. And then you combine that with the tourism that happens yearly for them. And a majority of that tourism is happening during the baseball season.
Yeah, because it's all the Disney
spring,
it's all the
summertime, fall. So that's where you're seeing that major push, right?
That's not a bad idea. And if realistically, you get Disney involved, you get Universal involved, what have you.
Yeah, you take offers.
Sponsorship.
You don't go to them. You wait and you see what they offer.
That's really not a bad idea. And here's my only kicker to that.
Yeah,
I'd have to know what the numbers are in terms of Disney related, because don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people who go to Disney. I don't want to say a lot, but I know there are a group of people who go to Disney and go to Disney, like let's say like the vacation club members, the timeshare owners.
Yeah, they all go to Walt Disney World.
Right, they'll go to Disney and not necessarily go to the parks, but they'll go to just take a vacation,
right? Which
you could rope into seeing a baseball game. But my problem, and it's the same reserves many people had with Vegas, is there's more to do there. I just don't know if baseball would be the thing they come for. I feel like it'd be more of a secondary. Like when you go to Orlando, more often than not, you're going to Disney.
We're not talking about
I don't know if the traffic would then pivot and be like, oh well, we could go to, let's say, just for example, an Orlando Rays game.
Right.
Granted, having the traffic, more people would come. It's really not a bad idea. And you package it right.
Yeah.
You have Mickey and Minnie Mouse at the games, and
you start packaging stuff up correctly. You start getting other parties involved, right?
You could have Disney. Disney could have the naming rights to the stadium. I mean,
well, then here's the other thing
that
comes into play too, right? So we look at Vegas, right, and we jump back to that for a minute. One of the major issues that the A's were initially seeing for their first initial plot of land they were looking to grab, right, was around 35, 36 acres of land that they were looking at making a bid on, but they needed public funding, a large amount of it.
Right, well, the team's broke, apparently.
Right.
The owner isn't, but the team is.
So that's what I look at when I say Tampa Bay coming into Orlando. You want to give naming rights? What happens if you let the Imagineers build a ballpark in Orlando?
Oh, that's not a.
How crazy would that be?
That's not a bad idea. It's really not a bad idea. The problem you run into though in that is how much of the team, how much of the.
There's a lot of business ends.
There's a lot of business ends to that. Like how much of the team do they get? Profit margin.
Right.
There's a lot to that, but it's not a bad idea. Yeah. I really enjoy that.
That would be such a crazy idea. Just imagining a ballpark built
by the Disney Imagineers.
By the Disney Imagineers in Orlando.
That go crazy hard.
Okay, so Jeff and I
Each section is going to have like its own theme and shit. Like,
yeah,
could you imagine like left field is all Star Wars shit? Like all this, the seats are all themed like Star Wars. Like,
bro,
all right field is all like Disney princesses and shit. Like,
bro, just think about left field in the Star Wars frame. You call like the top left, like second deck left field is the Death Star, and dude, hit the Death Star
because they'll be in. So if it is a ballpark made in Orlando, it will be a domed park.
Right,
it
would
will
have
to be a domed park. So you have a large amount of options to really build with that.
Yeah, and Disney
Um,
could get the naming rights to the stadium. Jeff, I really don't. I don't hate the idea. I don't. I just think there are some other cities that could, in fact, have a good sports town for baseball. And
Wow.
to your point, Nick,
But
earlier,
Tampa's
even
on the
hockey.
up. Tampa's on the up. They're an up team. We're seeing they're really doing well so far this season, right? I'm expecting them to be able to be holding out for the second half of the season. We'll probably see a large amount of those players return next season. So I think they're on the up and up for the next couple seasons. I think that really helps them make a bid for trying to do something versus the A's, who's really having a real down spurt of a season.
They're real bum.
I think that makes it a little bit more difficult for them to find funding and have reasoning and to try to encourage that market to get behind them, right?
Yeah, I would like to see, and I know we've talked about this, but I'd like to see Tampa go a couple of hours in the other direction and maybe move towards like New Orleans. We really have to see where MLB wants
Right.
their next team to be or to
Well,
relocate
because-
their team.
Because
I know Nashville's on their
they
list.
want to move. So I don't know if you saw this story yet.
2025, right?
They want 32.
32, okay.
Right. But the two teams that are currently having issues with their ballpark right now are the Rays and the A's.
Well, I know a lot of Rays fans, at least to what I've heard and seen, that Tropicana Field isn't good. Like
No,
the
it's
the
not.
circles and the lights are screwy. The
Yeah.
the location is bad.
Well, St.
Like,
Pete's mayor has been saying that supposedly that I think it's like the gas district or whatever I think it's like that area is called that includes Tropicana is set to be refurbished to include some new housing and other things, and that would that money set aside for that would include updating Tropicana, right? But if they're really not happy in the St. Pete's market and they're not happy with the fact that the way the stadium is and that's not really changing even with these updates that they're talking about, I think that's where we see them move out of the market to either move to Tampa directly and look at one of those properties or move
somewhere else,
down to Orlando.
Nashville. I mean, I feel bad. Like I hate watching teams move because there are diehard fans from all of these places. It sucks to watch teams move. But to your point about the A's trying to move to Vegas and getting gypped on some areas and what have you, I know a lot of teams now are trying to build not only stadiums but like event areas and like I know.
Yeah, we saw that with some of the spaces that they built for the Raiders when they moved in and they built their stadium.
Yeah,
in
I know
Vegas.
Chicago. Like speaking of the Cubs, right?
Yeah.
They built up Wrigleyville, right? Like I
Right.
know a lot of these places are trying to build not only just the stadium but the fan experience
And the community
around the
it.
stadium,
Yep.
which is a cool thing, but also is kind of a pain in the butt because you see a team like the Rays looking to
Right.
relocate, and it's like, well, at what point is it too much? Like, you could build a stadium in Orlando. You don't need that much space, but it's everything else that they want.
Well,
That a lot of cities are like, dude, we can't do this. Like, we can't
we'll have
give
to
you
tweet it out.
60 acres worth of
Yeah.
land because we don't have it to give. We're a city.
Yeah, we'll have to. I'll have to. We'll have to tweet out the renders that they did for the Dreamers made
Yeah, we will.
for their pitch because
They have a whole thing.
Well,
Like, I mean, there
they
is
have-
a whole strip.
yeah,
It's like
there's a whole
7 city
strip
blocks.
that comes into it. Yeah, there's a bunch of shopping areas. They're really trying to not only incorporate a ballpark but also incorporate another section of Orlando to go and shop and to hang out and to go and eat food at restaurants and just be at, right? They're trying to create another space like downtown Orlando where there's all these different restaurants, different clubs, different stores downtown during the day that you can go to that you can go and shop at. So it's really trying to not only create a ballpark but an experience for everybody in Orlando.
I don't mind the idea. I just sometimes I think it takes away from the sport. Like
Oh yeah.
some cities have stadiums that are just like that,
Right.
but it's because they were made in the city. Like Pittsburgh is very much like that, where around Pittsburgh is a bunch of shops and bars, and I mean there is a few there is more of like a business district, if you will, but there's bars and shops around PNC Park, but that's because PNC Park is made in the middle of the state, or made in the middle of the city, right? Where sometimes I think they have these ideas where it's like, we'll make a $6 billion complex with stores and bars and restaurants. And it's like, guys, you're a sports franchise, and I'm not taking away from it. Like, it will boost the economy of the city, and you're going to get business and
property needs to get paid for during the off season.
Yeah, no, I understand, but sometimes I'm like, hey, just build the ballpark. Like, it's as much as it is about the experience, it's about the sport, and that's what we're here for. Like, I'm not going to a Rays game so I can go to the restaurants around.
Right.
I'm here so I can go to the game, put the money into the stadium, and make the stadium, good and long-lasting and useful and beautiful and whatever. I don't care about the surrounding. Like, the city can kind of make its way around it itself. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's a weird take, but I think
it's knowing your market, right?
Yeah,
I think that's really
that's
the big
true.
thing is, I think, knowing your market, knowing the people who are going to be coming out to your games, right? And that, to some extent, that's the location too, right?
Yeah, the location does matter.
Does matter for that market and what you're going to get for as far as turnout. So we'll see what happens. I'm curious. I'll be keeping an eye on the A situation. I know a lot of Vegas news media has been pushing out commentary about balking at the idea, since right now they're looking at being in the Trop. Speaking of
the old Tropicana,
the old Tropicana, and there's been a lot of commentary
casino
going
Tropicana,
about that. Yeah,
which I may be going to tonight in Atlantic City.
In Atlantic.
I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna.
Ocean's better. I like Ocean.
Oh,
Casino.
dude,
It's so awesome.
No, it's
and Hard Rock. I like Hard
Rock.
Dude,
I love the Hard Rock.
The Hard Rock and AC is so underrated.
Yeah, no, 100% underrated. You know what casino's overrated? Caesars. Now that I don't think we're gonna get sponsored by any of these guys anyway. Caesars is fairly overrated. I've had bad experiences at Caesars, so I'm a little biased towards it.
It's like when I go to the casino, I either like to play roulette,
amen,
video poker at the bar.
Video poker?
Yeah, because it's 50-cent bets.
Oh, I know what you're talking
about.
And
you sit at the bar and get free drinks. So I can just bet 50 cents and just feed me alcohol the whole night.
Nah, video poker, no good.
I play blackjack, but I don't really like to play against the house too much, just because I feel like blackjack's kind of rigged. So unless I learn to count cards, I try to stay away from blackjack.
Fair.
But
wait, speaking of blackjack, Luca, our friend, I watched him. We went like 2 weeks ago. I watched him stay on a 7. Dude, when I tell you, everybody at the table, including me,
he had a 4 and a 3.
No, hear me out. He had a 6 and a 1.
What?
Okay, he had a 7. Dealer is showing a 4. Okay, or maybe a 5, and we're sitting there, and he pulls a 7, and he looks at me, looks at the other kid we're with, looks at the table, looks all around, and he goes, "Stay." And we're all like,
"What?
Huh?
What
Dude,
did you just say?"
Dude, the side eyes. Everyone at the table, the 2 pit bosses, everybody went, "What?" And he said, "Stay. I'm staying on a 7." And we're all like, "You're an idiot," because he had a huge bet on the hand.
Right.
Like, you're an idiot. Like, how could you stay on a 7?
Just his
girl
lucky
flips over to get 9. And you can see him starting to sweat. He's like, the dealer's showing 9, starts to sweat, hits another, gets a 4, and now has 13. Hits again, takes a 10, loses. He wins on a 7. I'm like, are you kidding me? And he's like, I knew it was happening the whole time.
That is just Luca's luck,
dude.
Honestly,
and the craziest part about it is as soon as he's done did it, he quotes Austin Powers. You know what? In Austin Powers, in the first one where he stays on like a 6, and he's like, "Dangerous. I like to live dangerously too. Stay." So as soon as he hits and he makes some money, he's like, "I too like to live dangerously." And I'm like, you had no idea. Like, no idea.
I'm also a Texas Hold'em guy. I love Texas Hold'em, but the problem is that in AC there's like 2 casinos where you can play Texas Hold'em, and it's Harrah's, and I want to say Caesars is the other one.
What was it?
No,
there's only a couple
Golden Nugget?
casinos.
You can play at the Trop.
Golden Nugget, I think.
You can play
at
the Trop.
I don't think so, because I looked it up. I remember looking it up. Texas.
We'll get back to that while you look at that. What else did you have on your phone though that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, I got a list of shit.
Oh, well, that's good. Okay.
Looks like
We're only an hour in just starting that.
Borgata,
You could, you could. I'm telling you, you can play the Trop.
Borgata, Harrah's, and the Trop.
Yeah, you can play the Trop. I've played at the Trop.
Yeah, but I like Texas Hold'em because you can play against other players, and you're not
Yeah,
playing
the
against
odds.
the house.
The odds are in your
Yes,
favor.
I'd rather take my chances going against other players who might not know what they're doing than play against the house who wins most of the time.
Yeah, I mean it's always slanted. Go ahead. Let's see what
but
you got on this
I have
list
some
of stuff.
Some stuff that is also related to the Mets as well.
Oh yeah.
But
We always have to talk
not
about the
like
Mets.
related in the terms where it's like just the Mets. It's about the Mets. It's not about the Mets, but it relates to the Mets.
That was a lot of
so-
Mets in one sentence.
So the Twins, your Twins that you predicted that would win the AL Central.
Yes.
Tyler Mahle out for the year for Tommy John surgery.
Dude, I know.
That that just makes me makes me wonder what's going to happen with their rotation, if they're going to be able to keep up with what they were doing.
I want to say yes because I still don't think that division is great, and I still think the Twins are going to be fine with the lineup that they have and the rotation that they have. Speaking of my predictions, the Pirates also are now a game back from the Brewers, so Nick may get lucky on this one and not have to get the Jolly Roger on his butt cheeks because
we'll see.
Pittsburgh is lost a few in a row here.
We'll see.
They're not doing as well as I need them to be.
I mean, the Twins should still be okay because they still have Pablo Lopez. He's a stud.
Yes.
Sonny Gray, he's still a stud. Joe Ryan's been pretty decent.
Sonny Gray kind of found himself out there in Minnesota.
Kenta Maeda's still on the team. Chris Paddock, when he comes back, he's still on the 60-day IL, but that was real close.
And as much as people want to kind of poop on him.
That was the second, though.
Huh?
That was the second throw to first base.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they got to.
As much as people still want to poop on him, even though Carlos Correa's hitting my weight 185, even though he's batting awfully, when he comes around, that's going to add a bat to the lineup. There's no way in this entire season he's going to bat that. There's going to be a point where he's going to turn it up and probably start a streak where he's hitting 260, I would think, right? Like, there's no way he can bat 190 or whatever the hell he's hitting for the whole season. I mean, that would just be absurd, So I think that lineup's going to be all right. I think the rotation will be fine, too. It does suck. Do you have Jazz Chisholm in there as well?
No, I don't have Jazz in here.
What a waste that was. Did you see his injury?
No, what happened to him?
So apparently the Marlins this year were doing an experiment because they were looking for a center fielder all year or all off
they
season.
had him playing.
Yeah, so apparently they went to him and said, "Hey, we need a center fielder," and he was like, "I'll do it." So they've been putting him out there. The problem is they just started putting him out there, so he didn't get a spring, he didn't get a winter.
Right.
So
and he's a second baseman.
Yeah, so now he's playing center field. So for the first little bit, he looked lost. I mean, it was bad. The statistics, his play.
He looked like Nick Castellanos.
Yeah, like his
first
first step is off. He wasn't seeing the ball well, and he's finally starting to get his feet underneath them, and he looks better. And because his spatial awareness isn't where it needs to be yet, dude runs right into a fence, steps on it like the concrete,
lip
where the fence is, steps on it, turf toe, out for I don't know 3 months. I think they said. Like
Jesus,
it's
turf
dude,
toe?
it's a bad case of turf toe, a real bad case of turf toe.
Sucks.
So that sucks for the Marlins.
Hey, that's the MLB The Show curse right there.
Dude,
It's
isn't
the
it?
cover athlete curse,
Isn't it?
But continuing, Kenley Jansen, 400th career save. I think it was last week for the Red Sox. He made his 400th career save, and he's reaching peak velocity for his career.
Which is awesome, by the way.
Incredible. So I don't know what Boston has done to him, if the air's working for him better up there in the Northeast, or Bryce Harper looking silly on that slider from Stroman.
I do like the crisp air of the Northeast, New England.
But, I don't know. I don't know if it's a renaissance or if he's going to be able to continue it, but he's looking really good right now, where the last couple years, I think he was the Braves last year, right? He wasn't I mean, his cutter is still filthy. He still throws a nasty
Right,
cutter,
right.
but he wasn't getting his locations that he normally would be locked down on, stuff like that. But
Sometimes a location change will do that to you,
and then
though.
also Masataka Yoshida for Boston, another stud from Japan.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude.
holy,
Japan is just giving us,
pumping them out.
dude, giving us gods. And the best part about it is, like, we as Americans, right, when we watch baseball, we see Judge, we see Mookie, we see all these guys. Japan, dude, for the longest while, who was it? Ichiro? And it's like, who else do you have? I mean, what's his name? He used to play for the Yankees.
Was it a pitcher?
No, he
I was
just
gonna
with
say, because if it was
Hideki Matsui.
Oh yeah,
Hideki Matsui played for a while, but like, I mean, who do you?
He
really
wasn't
like?
really like he wasn't a big name like Ichiro or
No,
Shohei though.
But what I'm saying is, like, these Japanese players, it's like in the MLB, it's like Ichiro is their guy, and we have all these stuff, and now all of a sudden it's like you see Shohei, you see Senga, right? You see the kid from Boston, like all of these players are
just
starting
to show up.
yeah,
now.
and I was gonna say Japan and Japanese, and I was gonna say Japanese. So that's why I stopped.
God.
The Japanese, it was just a misspeak. The Japanese.
Don't worry, we'll cut that part out.
Yeah, I'll cut it out. The Japanese are just starting to produce some dogs, and it's awesome to see. I mean, look at what Shohei's doing. Absolutely amazing. I think Senga's gonna come around. And he looked awesome the other night.
Yeah, he really
Dude,
did. So far,
what was that, last night? He looked.
Yeah,
He looked.
Was it last night?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah, it was
against
a
the
walk-off
Rays.
was last night. Yeah, he looked great last night.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in love with Japan and their baseball players.
Hey, listen, man. Juan Soto starting to turn it around.
I told you.
It was I wrote some of these notes down like a week ago. But when I wrote down this last week about Soto, so I wrote it down last week. So the 2 weeks prior to that, he was going. He was not himself this year so far, up until a couple weeks ago, and then he starts turning around. So last week when I wrote the note, it was the 2 weeks prior to that, in 53 plate appearances, he was hitting 400 with a 547 on base and a 700 slugging for like a 1250 OPS.
Jesus.
Like, dude was actually starting to turn it back around and turn it on a little bit. So, we'll see. We'll see if he can continue it. I mean, Juan Soto's been one of the best players in baseball since he came up at 19 years old.
19.
Yeah, what's the
18 or
dealio
19?
with Padres though? That's another one of my picks, dude. I'm so
Oh,
bad.
yeah.
Another one of my picks is just falling off, dude.
I think it's ownership. I really
think
do.
so?
I think
Ownership?
I think it's ownership and like overall like leadership in the clubhouse.
Yeah, no, I think Manny Machado's a good leader.
No,
No,
he's a hothead. Manny's a hothead, and I feel like
Maybe.
having a hothead as your number one guy, who's your leader on that team, he's a cocky player because he knows he's really good. But I feel like it's tough to really put him in that leadership position just because you think of the guy on that team. You look at it,
dude. On paper, they should be way better than what they are.
They should be leading their division. They should be
Yeah,
like with the
yeah,
team
they definitely
that
should
they
be leading
have.
the division,
I mean,
but
one thing I think is Nando is not a right fielder,
no.
but at the same time he makes throwing errors at shortstop.
Right.
So like he can get to the ball and he makes great defensive plays in stopping the ball, but then he throws the ball and he doesn't have that control with his throws.
Right.
But yeah, Soto's looking good.
I think the Padres' biggest problem currently is that they're in win now mode and not winning now. And I think the Mets are in that same field where it's
yep.
like you're in win now mode and you're not winning now. Like, especially the Padres, they mortgaged their future for this. Like, they
Yep.
were like, hey, Machado, money. Soto,
well,
well
no,
they traded
Soto
for that
trade-
contract. But,
dump everybody for Soto.
dude, they
Tatis, Xander
money.
Bogaerts,
money. Like, dude, they are in win now mode and in fourth place in the division. Like, that is unacceptable. The expectations are so high.
In fourth place in a division with the San Francisco Giants and the Arizona Diamondbacks, nonetheless.
The Diamondbacks are, I think, a game and a half back.
I know
they
the
look
Diamondbacks.
awesome.
First, I mean, dude, Zach Gallen just
Dude,
looks so
did you
good.
see? Was it
Corbin
did you
Carroll looks so good.
Did you see Zach Gallen's bird?
Yeah, where he threw a curveball while he was warming up in the outfield. and
Yeah,
killed
hit
the
a bird.
Not as
Not as
gruesome
intense
as Randy Johnson, where like the
Right.
feathers blew up and everything, because he wasn't pitching 100% effort. He was just warming up. He threw it like a slow ass, like had to be a 60-mile-an-hour curveball. But
Right.
what are the chances that he dunks a fucking bird out of the air?
Yeah, it was crazy. to
That
see
was nuts. And then like you see the bird like hit the guy,
Right.
like his throwing partner. The bird hits the guy in the leg.
Uh-oh. Nice. Nice.
Man, Dansby Swanson, you're hurting my fantasy team.
Don't you love when pitchers give up an awful long ball and the guy
And then
makes a
it's
catch?
right there.
The guy makes a
That's-
catch at the track or like just over the wall and makes a catch, and then the pitcher's just like,
Thank
you.
Like that is right there. I mean that
Yeah,
ball
that
ball's over the fence.
Yeah, that was going into a bullpen. No, that was
it,
going to bounce
it hits
in.
the corner, but you're right, Jeff. It
Yeah,
probably
but,
bounces
like,
away. It bounces
that
way
right
over.
there is the perfect explanation for my luck playing MLB The Show. Like I'll have a perfect location on my swing, perfect timing on my swing, have an
Just
absolute
hits it.
crack, and it sounds like it's going out, and the guy goes right to the warning track at the wall and catches it. Like,
You got anything left on that list of yours?
yes, I do. DeGrom still out.
Dude
yeah,
sucks.
I don't.
Dude,
I
I mean,
don't
at this point, you really cannot look at DeGrom without saying when the hell is he actually going to pitch. Like at this point for Texas, you really
If they
got to
make it
start.
into
By the way,
postseason.
Mets are down 5. I just got the
Yeah,
notification.
Yeah, I know.
What a waste they
But
are.
DeGrom, like it's really starting to look like it's time to really worry about DeGrom's health.
Oh, I bet.
The past couple years, it's been like flaky. Like okay, it's a little concerning, but now that it's like consistent, the last 3-4 years, it's just doesn't look good for DeGrom.
I'll tell you, there's a lot of players over the history of all 4 majors, and you could include soccer because
Right.
you know the MLS is starting to come up. There's a lot of players that could have been, should have been, but because they cannot stay on the field, shit happens. And DeGrom is gonna be one of those where down the line we're gonna look 10, 15 years from now because we're old enough to have watched him pitch.
Right.
We're gonna be like, oh man, dude. Jacob DeGrom was the guy, but dude couldn't stay healthy. And that's the worst for any athlete is, man, this guy should have been, could have been, but could not because of X, Y, and Z, and I
Right.
feel bad. But you're right. It is time for the Texas Rangers to go, what did we just buy into?
Yeah.
Because, first off, they're playing
And
great
honestly-
without him.
And honestly, yes, they are good on the Mets also for not re-signing him.
Yes.
because he with the way his injuries are working right now, he's not worth the money that they gave him at
No.
all.
Next,
But speaking on, I told you that I had some stuff that I wrote down that was
Mets related,
Mets related, but
Mets
not
related.
directly Mets, but also along the line with the Texas Rangers. Did
Oh.
you see for the Texas Rangers who needs to get Tommy John surgery?
Oh, no. Who we got?
Former Mets first overall draft pick Kumar Rocker
Oh?
out of Vanderbilt, the guy that
On
we
his
passed
right?
on. That we passed on because we saw something in his physical that everybody was like, the Mets are stupid. This kid's is a stud. Now he needs TJ surgery.
Yeah, what is it on his right?
I'm sure it's on his throwing arm.
Yeah.
Can't
I think he's a
imagine.
right-handed thrower.
But yeah, they said that there was something in his arm.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's
They're-
what
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what pays out doing that sort of
Yeah, three
research
days
yourself,
ago.
right?
You know,
Make
it's
those choices.
Tommy John is becoming such a surgery now.
Yeah, that's just like so common.
Dude,
Yeah.
I wonder if it's
Yep, and it's his right elbow.
I wonder if it's
that's
the
what I think.
training that we put athletes through now, or if it's just the fact that we're just not as tough as the older generations. Because you look back in the day, it's like these pitchers would pitch for 7, 8 innings a start.
Oh my God, yeah, you
And
look
they
at
would
those
throw
pitchers, they'd
hundreds
have
of pitches.
300 innings plus a year.
Yeah,
like,
and none of them were hurt.
Yep.
None of them cared.
yeah, I think
And now it's like pitcher goes 5 innings, average, Tommy John everywhere, and I'm like, what are we doing wrong?
yeah, what
that
what were
they
they doing?
weren't.
And our technology is so much better, and we're supposed to have all these
Yeah.
advancements and be able to prevent this stuff.
And it's like everybody and their brothers just, oh, Tommy John.
Well, one thing I'll bring up, and we talked about him earlier before the podcast started tonight. There's a gentleman who is on the LA Dodgers at one point who was asked the same question about MLB's changes to the overall stickiness and
Oh,
the
yeah.
resin.
Old
right?
Trevor Bauer.
Trevor Bauer had a great comment about the fact that all it takes is resident sweat.
Yeah, sweat and rosin is all you need.
Right.
And then
So, but his comment that he was making was most guys are now overthrowing the ball or throwing it a lot harder with their overall grip strength. And that's leading to
stress.
these stresses in these
stress in the
injuries.
Okay,
ligaments
that's
and-
interesting.
So
Tyler Glass now even said the same thing
Yeah.
when he got hurt because he's like, you got to think like for us, like we're allowed to use sweat and rosin,
right,
but when they're telling us that what they give us is illegal, we have to get a better grip on the ball. So that means we have to squeeze the ball harder, which
Right.
then
Or
puts
change-
tension in
or
our
change the
forearms,
grip.
tension in our elbow. It changes everything about how
Right.
we have to throw the ball. And when they don't allow us to use these things that help us to make it
Right.
easier for us to actually throw, that's when more and more of these pitchers are getting hurt. Now, we're seeing less pitchers get hurt from swinging the bat,
right.
which is awesome.
Which is, you
I-
always want that.
Nobody's going to a baseball game to
Right.
see a pitcher hit anyway. But
Right. There's not those situations.
I don't know. Shohei's hitting.
Well,
well,
okay, so
Shohei's
Shohei's
the
an
next coming
anomaly.
of Babe Ruth.
Yeah,
Bro, that's wild. He pitched the other night, had 5 innings or 6 innings. He pitched the other night and had
almost had
and
a
had
cycle.
2 dingers. No,
He almost,
had the cycle. He legs out a triple. That dude's absolutely out of his mind.
Dude was built in a lab. I mean,
But to your guys' point about the sweat and the rosin and the
Right.
sticky such, I don't mind letting the pitchers have a little bit better grip on the ball. Just don't use and abuse it. Like, I
Yeah.
know the MLB doesn't want it, and guys,
Well, they've
this-
been.
and the sticky stuff goes hand in hand with another point that I'm going to make in a
Yeah.
second.
I'm kind of at that point where it's like, you know what? I don't want to say I'm okay with it because I'm not, because it is technically cheating. But it's like I think they're a little too heavy-handed on it, where
At the
it's
same
like,
time, why are players allowed to have pine tar on their bats?
Right.
They're wearing batting gloves. That's the whole point.
yeah,
Right.
no, that's a fair,
Yeah,
that's
so,
a
like-
that's a fair
Right.
argument.
Right.
That's a fair argument.
And why
I mean,
is it that we're starting to enforce it more and more now when it's been on the books since the game had started?
no, that's fair too. Listen, back in the day, if you ever watched the movie Major League, there's a good line in the movie where the older pitcher is talking to what's his name,
Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen's character, and he's like, you got to do anything you can to keep yourself alive, and he's basically talking about like, any sort of substance he can
Right.
find to keep that ball moving,
Yep.
keep it spinning.
That top spin.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to say I'm okay with them using sticky stuff to like throw the ball better, but if it reduces injury even a little bit of Tommy
Yeah.
John, I mean,
if he's been able, because this is where the science will come into it, and we'll have to wait a couple seasons to see it. But if a pitcher is, cutting down on their how many seasons it takes to hit that point where they inevitably have to get Tommy John, right? Like, because there's inevitably a length of time that you will eventually get to that point that you have to get it done
right.
because you're just pitching so much. So if that time frame changes based off of having these tools being utilized again, I'm all for it. As long as we're not, getting
Oh my
into
God.
pine tar and other
Seiya
things.
Suzuki just dropped another ball. He
Go
dropped
figure.
one earlier, and then
He
just
dropped it on the
it,
transition earlier, though.
but
Yeah.
they called him safe. The runner went to second on that ball.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
and
thought he called it on the
it looked like
transition.
it was
No.
on the transition earlier, but that runner still went to second. But this was just straight.
Dude,
Hit
what are
those
you
apples.
Closed the glove
doing?
too early.
But yeah, so if it does transition to, we find out that utilizing this system helps pitchers stay healthy longer, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
It's
I
really
mean,
at the end of the day.
yeah, if it allows pitchers to stay healthy, as long as it's not used and abused, like as long as you're not using, glue. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
there's got to be some regulation on it, but to the pitcher's point, if you can't grip the ball because your hands are sweaty and it's 95 and humid in Atlanta in the middle of July,
Right.
like there's got to be some leeway because you got to be able to
Can't
grip
have
a
an
baseball.
ump come up and check and then see some level of sticky, but it was just because
Sweat and rosin,
sweat
yeah,
and rosin, and then the pitcher gets ejected for it.
right.
Like
Like
now
Max
we're
Scherzer,
seeing,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
I
seeing
still don't
these
get how he
situations.
didn't win that appeal.
I don't either.
I don't really know if the MLB can make a case for it. Like, what are you appealing? It's like that's a person to
that
person.
I did it in front of an MLB official. I washed my hands with what they told me was allowed in front of the MLB
Right.
official. That was what Max Scherzer was saying. At least was like I did it in front of the MLB official.
I made sure.
and made
Yeah,
sure,
I mean,
but
it's tough because it's an umpire to player interaction. Like you really don't know.
yeah,
Like the MLB, I mean, if he appeals and gets it, and they're like, "All right, you're not suspended," then anytime somebody appeals, there has to be clear evidence. Like, okay, he did something. You know what I mean? Like any close, like we're
Speaking
not
of-
sure.
Speaking of
Cameras.
clear evidence, you want to talk about the Yankees pitcher the
Oh.
other day?
Oh.
Domingo Herman gets checked, and then he's in
Domingo.
the dugout, and he's got his hands on his hips, and he takes his hand off his hips, and there was just straight fucking pine tar on his pants.
Dude,
Like
what
that
an-
was the funniest thing. He didn't like. You can't even try to argue it at that point.
No.
I'm staring at the pine tar on your pants from your throwing hand.
It is an interesting argument, though, you made that batters get to use pine tar. Now, granted, they're restricted on how high you can have it on the bat,
True.
so it doesn't hit the ball. But to your point, yeah, that's clear as day. I mean,
Yeah,
you
that was-
can't get
that
away
was
with that.
bad.
Speaking of the Yankees, though, did you see Aaron Judge's cheating scandal?
yeah, that-
apparently.
I don't think he was cheating. What he said was that his teammates were chirping, but he was like, it was a big spot in the game, and they were distracting me. So I was looking over at him, trying to figure out who was making noise.
That to me is so odd, though. Like, I'm not going to say he was cheating because I don't think he was. And John Boy does like a pretty good breakdown of it all. But
Shouts to John Boy Media,
yeah.
by the way.
Shout to them.
I love John Boy.
Actually, I love John Boy's co-partnership with Talking Giants, being a huge Giants fan. I love the Talking Giants guys.
Mhm.
I don't know if they're ever going to hear this podcast, but shout out to
Shouts-
them.
And shouts to Jolly Olive too.
Yeah.
Jolly Olive's another great one.
But
He works now with John Boy. John Boy, he's like partnered with them now.
Oh,
that's
okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
but nonetheless, John Boy does a breakdown of it. But it's very odd because he like looks over and then hits a homer, and it's like to be able to move
Like the
your eyes.
coincidence. The
Yeah.
coincidence.
But just the whole breakdown of it, like to be able to move your eyes, come back to the pitcher, still find the ball, and still be able to hit it, like it's actually impressive.
Well, I would assume there is a level of panic coming from him when you come back to the pitch. It's coming at you.
Yeah, in
you
that
have
in
to
those
kinda,
moments
like,
where you're like
microseconds making the decision to be like, all right, well, we're swinging at it.
Right,
Here we go.
It is super interesting. But yeah, apparently the dugout was making too much noise, and he wanted to see.
Yeah,
his
he
turn.
was
It's
just
like,
saying the
dude,
dugout. Like he said, some of his teammates or one of his teammates in the dugout was like chirping at the other team, and he was like, it was just distracting, and like it was a big at bat. So I was just trying to focus. So I was trying to look over and figure out who was chirping, so I could tell him to knock it off. But
Yeah.
it's a weird scenario. I don't think Aaron Judge is a cheater by any means,
no,
and I don't think he
can't-
was.
I can't imagine.
And for what it's
too high
worth,
profile,
oh yeah, and God
especially in
forbid.
this day and age. Like that would be another Barry Bonds situation. Like,
Oh yeah, and God forbid the Yankees get caught in a cheating scandal. That would
after
blow
the
up.
Astros,
That
thing.
would blow up more than the Astros because it's the
they,
Yankees.
Well, not only that, but they were huge, and they were the number one people, like the number one team. And
going against
going
the
ag-
Astros.
going
yeah.
after them for it too. So to have them turn around and get caught for it would just be detrimental.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was-
It'd be a huge scandal. So
That
I don't
was a
think.
gift from the umpire, that strike call. Good lord.
I don't know what the hell is going on.
But just to finish off,
Yeah. What
I
else
just
you got
had
in there?
3 last little things.
Last little pieces here.
Jose Altuve coming back tonight for the Astros.
Awesome.
Ready for it?
Big for them. He's a huge piece for him. Obviously, big leader, big just atmosphere guy to
Yeah,
have
and it's-
back in Houston healthy.
It'll be nice for them too because they got off to a really rocky start.
And then they
had
started
a
coming
lot
back.
of
Now
people
they're
out.
Now they're second place, so they're sitting.
They're starting to move a
Yeah,
little bit,
they're starting to
and
move.
I think Altuve is going to add a little life.
And it's
I
gonna,
think-
it's going to add a little bit of pop. It's going to add a little bit of just energy back to the clubhouse, having their dude back. I mean, Jose Altuve's that guy on
Oh,
Houston.
100%.
Yeah, he is.
And being as quick as he is, I think it helps on the base path. I think it helps, on the bases, him running, what have you. I think he's going to be a big help. I think he's going to be a big jump start to the offense there. So very happy to have him back finally.
Yep. The Mets. Gary Sanchez.
Stupid.
They I wrote down in here because this was today that I wrote this down before
Obviously,
they
he's
made
not
any
helping
moves.
today.
Yeah.
Right. Now, this was before they made any moves. I was wondering how it's going to work. I was like, all right, they signed Gary Sanchez. Omar Narvaez is still out. Tomas Nido plays like shit.
Right.
I was like, what are we going to do? Because it's been known that Tomas Nido, for whatever reason, still has a job on the Mets, and he's been employed. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
He was great as a framer for us when, like, DeGrom was on the team, but now that we don't really have that strike thrower with DeGrom where framing's that all important, like, he's not as important. He doesn't get on base. He doesn't hit. He can bunt. That's about it. And even still, Francisco Alvarez this year has better framing numbers than he does. So,
Sure.
but now the Mets sent Tomas Nido down on a rehab assignment,
Right.
and then
And
they
they brought
and
Sanchez
then they brought
up.
Sanchez up, and then they sent like another guy down to like
Yeah.
AAA or something like that to make the room. So we'll see what happens there. I mean,
I don't
Alvarez,
know if I care. My dad's a Yankees fan, so I kind of lived the Gary Sanchez experience
Oh,
through
yeah.
him
Oh,
and with
boy.
him.
Yep.
I mean,
like,
you're not
it's
adding
weird.
a lot. Like,
No,
I mean,
you're
you're
not-
getting
you're
a little
adding-
bit of offensive numbers, but you're not really getting anything on the
you're not
catching
you're
side.
not getting anything on the defensive side.
No,
of
he
catching.
doesn't
Right.
bring you anything behind
And
the
he'll
plate.
maybe
He doesn't
hit a home
call,
run every
He
once-
doesn't call a great game,
No.
and you're not getting a ton of
And that
offense.
was one
but
thing that the pitchers on the Mets said they loved about James McCann was that he called a fantastic game, but he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a baseball bat, let alone a baseball.
Can we just for a quick second? I want to speak on the NHL for a quick second. I don't know if we did when the.
I
when it
just have
started.
literally one last thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Not that he's gonna hear it, but congratulations to Freddie Freeman, 300th
Yeah.
career home run.
300.
man.
That's
Crazy.
that's starting to get
the-
into an exclusive clubs there.
Yeah, he's the 144th player in MLB history to have 300 home runs and 1,000 hits. So.
Dude, what a dude! Freddie
Freeman, and I felt so bad for him with the whole Braves thing because he did not want to leave Atlanta.
No, he wanted to stay so
he
bad.
wanted to stay, but his agent was the one who like fucked it for him. So, but anyway, shouts to you, Freddie Freeman, you and your whole family. You guys deserve the world. You guys are so
Dude,
just nice people.
Freddie Freeman's
Class act in baseball.
such a good
Just
cat.
good dude.
And on top of all of that, like there are some players you just can't hate. And being a Mets fan,
Oh yeah.
like Freddie Freeman was that guy where I'm like, all right, I hate the
Obviously,
Braves,
like
but
I hate the Braves, but Freddie Freeman, you can't help but root for him. Like,
yeah,
he's just-
right.
He's such a baseball player.
Yeah. You know who's the same way, actually? I'm a big Giants fan, as we've established. I actually really, really like Jalen Hurts.
Oh yeah,
Dude,
Jalen Hurts is.
I hate that team. I hate the Eagles so much. And it kills me that they're so good. But that kid, Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts
Same age as
is,
us.
dude, what a class act. What an absolute stud. And on top of all of that, his attitude is just A1.
Yeah,
like,
he's just so positive all the time.
Yep. And,
Like,
and when he came out, when everything was like crazy, he comes out and he's like, I give credit to God first. Hey, a man from my own cloth. I love that. But on top of that, it's always, I want to win championships. I want to be the best around. I'm going to do what I can for my team and my community. And I'm like, dude, I hate your team, but I got to root for you.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I'll root for you every other Sunday except for when you're playing.
if you play the
When you're playing the Giants,
I'm
I ain't
not
rooting for you.
Wow, yeah.
But like,
those 2
I'll-
games a year, I
right.
ain't rooting for
Like,
you.
I'll root for you, not the team. Like, you can have all the accolades you want, but
Yeah,
the
like
team can't
as-
go
if
anywhere.
you perform individually well, you've got like 150 plus rushing yards, couple TDs.
Right.
Like good for you. But as long as I still beat your team,
Right.
we're good.
I want Jalen Hurts to be like Tony Romo, break a lot of franchise records, get bounced in the first round every time. Like that's what I want you to be. I want you to be the franchise guy who goes nowhere. That would be perfect. But no, I
It's like
root
the next Donovan McNabb.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, but there's some players on some teams like you just root for, like because they're just good people. Xander Bogaerts is actually very much the same way. For
Even
me,
even David Wright. Everybody when David Wright
Yeah,
was playing,
everybody loved David
everybody
Wright.
loved David Wright just because he had a good attitude all the time. He was so patriotic. Like he was just everybody just liked him. He was so happy.
Aaron Judge is another one. Like
yeah, Aaron
yeah,
Judge,
I mean you
as
can go
much
down a
as-
list.
Yeah.
Anyway, one last thing. I wanted to make a point or two about the NHL.
Oh, because we had said something about like we were talking about relocating stuff. You can't tell me anymore that hockey does not belong in the South. All 4 teams remaining are South teams.
Dude.
Carolina, Florida, Dallas,
And Vegas.
and Vegas.
Well,
All-
Vegas isn't.
Vegas is west, but they're still a southern state. they still sit below.
Thank you. I was going to ask if you could.
the midline of the.
As we
United
now,
States.
not that we watch basketball too much, but
Let's
I
go
do.
Miami,
I do have
baby.
a rooting interest for Miami. Jimmy Buckets needs to.
I need him to get a
Dude,
ring.
Jimmy Buckets, dude, Hall of Famer. And if he's not a Hall of Famer because of his regular season stats, Hall of Fame playoff player. His stats are unbelievable. So, but back to the NHL for a second. Number one, yes, you cannot say the NHL does not belong in the South. Miami put a team together, and that team is awesome, dude. Kachuk, you have Sergei Bobrovsky in net. Dude, that team is awesome. Love watching playoff hockey. And
There's nothing. It's for
nothing
me,
like it. And that
hockey
dude,
and baseball. There is nothing like the atmosphere at NHL or hockey games in the playoffs.
well, the MLS,
well,
is there. But
I haven't experienced the soccer side,
dude,
of it,
but you're right. An NHL playoff game is awesome, and that fourth overtime winner last night was wild. First off, sixth longest game in NHL history.
Jesus.
If it would have went to the fifth overtime, I don't know if you guys watched it. Now I
I saw highlights this morning on YouTube.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
so
if
I
you,
fell
so you said it
asleep.
went a fourth overtime.
no, so I fell
so
asleep.
that's 100. That's 2 hours of hockey plus however many minutes in the
It was
fourth
it
they
was
played.
about I think it was about 5 hours of screen time.
Good lord.
Like I think because you got the pregame coverage, the
Mhm.
games, the intermissions. It was wild. I fell asleep at the middle of the second overtime. This thing went 4 overtimes, and with like 20 seconds left in the fourth overtime, they scored. If it would have went to the fifth, you get into the top 5 of longest games ever. So wild, absolutely wild. Yeah, I love playoff hockey.
Yeah, we'll see.
So we'll see if Florida can hold up or if Carolina starts to make pushes. You have Dallas playing Vegas tonight for Game 1. We're currently on Game 2 here of Miami-Boston. The Celts look I don't want to say awful because that's not the word I'm
No.
looking for. They just look lackadaisical.
Well,
Yeah.
that was my thing going into this series too. Now, obviously, I'm a Sixers fan, so don't talk to me about the way that the series against Boston ended. We should have closed out in Game 6. But I've said from it, I said if Boston goes on to play Miami, I don't think they win. Wow, that was a hell of a shot from Jason Tatum with both of Bam Adebayo's hands in his face. But my thing is that I think Miami takes this series just because Bam on defense is just stupid. I mean, the dude can guard 1 through 5. There's not many players in the NBA who can guard 1 through 5.
No.
You maybe have Giannis who can guard 1 through 5. Maybe Joker,
But
but
probably guard. Well,
Joker, I don't think he's guarding a point
I
guard.
don't know if he's guarding.
He's
a
not
one.
guarding a 1 or a 2 even. But like Bron, he's not guarding a center. LeBron's not guarding a center. Absolutely not. Embiid is not going to guard a point guard.
Draymond would guard 1 through 5.
Yeah, Draymond, Rudy.
Yeah, Rudy could guard.
Rudy, but there's only a select few, and right now in this series, if Bam is able to shut down Tatum, I think Tatum is the only reason that the Celtics beat us in Game 7.
Oh,
Yeah.
in Game 7.
Yeah, in
I
Game
thought you were
7,
going to say the only reason they
he
win
had
this series.
51 points. I think Jaylen Brown had 25, and one guy off their bench had 11. Everybody else had single-digit points. So, like, for me, like, Boston, other than Jason Tatum, doesn't really have any of those big pieces. I think that'll take him. So I think you lose.
Jaylen Brown could have a good night once. Like he could go
but
off.
he's not Jason
Marcus
Tatum.
Smart could go off.
Yeah, but
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Jason
I don't think
Tatum,
Marcus Smart's
they're
going
not,
to go
they're
off.
not
but
Jason Tatum at how old is Jason Tatum? 23.
yes, 24.
Like Jason Tatum at 24 years old looks absolutely stupid. He looks like Kobe.
Yeah, I want to say 24.
Like he looks like Kobe.
Well, he comes
out
from the
there.
Kobe tree.
Does he?
Yeah, he comes from the Kobe tree. He comes from.
I mean, look at Bam.
Oh,
you
I thought he
gotta
was gonna
put
put that
back in.
he comes from the Kobe tree. But I don't know if you heard Jimmy Bucket's post-game presser the other night when they won. Jimmy Butler is
So funny.
dude. Jimmy Butler is one of those cats that you like we were talking about earlier.
Kyle Lowry said I'd take my shirt off, but I didn't want to embarrass Jimmy.
No, I didn't see
And
that.
Jimmy's sitting there with his shirt off, like shredded 8-pack.
Dude. No, but Jimmy Butler is one of those like guys you just want to root for. And
Like
so,
even when they said they were like, "Oh, what credit do you give?" Like he was like, "Or what do you see that helped you win this game, like tonight, like against a good Boston team?" He was like, "We got Kyle Lowry."
no, but so he so the post game presser. I don't know if you know the news media that's been swarming around Jimmy Butler, but apparently his life story just decided to come out this year. So apparently he was kicked out of his house at 13, went to a junior college, then moved to a bigger college, got into the NBA, and like had to fight to get to where he is.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently the news media picked up on all the story now, and it's finally all coming out. So
I feel like this has been like old news. Like this isn't.
maybe it's older, but it's
I was gonna
starting to
say-
like resurface.
I guess. Yeah,
And-
just because he's making his way through.
Yeah, so they kept asking him about that in the presser, and he was like, I don't want anybody to think I'm a victim. Like, stop with all that. He's like, I work for what I have, but like that's what it is. Like, I'm not a victim. You know, I'm not this, I'm not that. Like,
Jimmy
I'm a
Butler
worker.
almost had like a Blindside-esque story, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. And he very much was like, hey, don't put this out there to make it look like it's a sob story. Like, I'm here, I'm working, that's it. And then when they asked him, they're like, well, you know, you guys playing with house money. Like, who did anybody think you could be here? And he goes, of course we did. Like, we could be here. We could beat this team. Like, we could play. And dude, much respect for that
Yeah,
guy.
no, Jimmy, and I'm still. No, don't get me wrong. Tobias Harris, I still like Tobias Harris,
Definitely not Jimmy.
but he ain't Jimmy. And like I said, when we had that team that we put together for that playoff run, where we had Jimmy Butler. Who did we end up getting? What was it? Tobias Harris. We went out for and traded that year. We had Jimmy Butler. We had Embiid. We had Simmons. We
Yes.
had a couple 3-point shooters. Didn't we have Josh Richardson that year too?
Yes.
Like,
And-
all these guys that were, and then we get beat by Toronto on that last second
Well,
shot.
Jimmy actually said in comments, if I'm not mistaken, it was him, said that if that shot doesn't go in, he's like, I know we win that game. He's like, and we more than likely win those finals. He's like, I know we would have won.
Yeah.
And he's like, if
It's
that shot
just-
doesn't
it's
go in,
just
he's
the
like, I
luck
know
of
we're
that
winning that
shot,
game.
yep.
Anyway, nonetheless, we're an hour and a half in, so
We gonna call it right
Yeah, I think
there
we gotta
this
cut it.
episode.
so that's episode 2, 3, 4. I
This
don't know
is
what number we're on.
technically,
Technically
if you want
4.
to consider how many we've uploaded, it's episode 4. If you go based on our first episode being like a little test bonus episode, this would be season 1, episode 3.
3?
Yes.
All right, so episode 3. We're going to call this.
Well, we don't know what we'll call it yet. We'll figure out
You
the
will
title
figure it
when
out.
we get to it. But
Anyway, peace out.
you should see it in about 4 or 5 days on all the major platforms.
Well, it'll be 4 or 5 days when they see it.
No, when they hear it.
or
they
hear
hear
it.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
hear
can't
it.
you can't really
Can't
see
see
audio.
us. Can't see us yet. We'll get
You
there
can't see-
eventually.
can't
We're
see
working on it.
audio.
We're working on
Yeah,
it.
we're working on it. All right.
I can see sounds.
Yeah,
I'm so caffeinated. I can see sounds.
All right, peace out.
All right, have
Goodbye.
a good night, guys.